Destiny.
Lori.
And I'm Wendy.
And we're here for our second podcast. You're welcome.
We're going to talk about a couple of things, but the biggest thing we're going to talk about is the show that we do every year, the biggest one, We Will Raq You, which is coming up September 9th. And we're going to talk about how, I forgot, we're on camera. Hello. So I'm sitting here like bored.
I know, I'm just staring at you guys.
We're going to talk about how it started and how it's kind of changed and developed and things since then. So that's today's topic.
Woot.
Is there anything we need to get out of the way before we dive into that?
Yeah, I want to say thanks to everybody that listened to our first podcast.
Yes.
And all of the ramblings. And we hope you enjoy this one too. And let's talk about some We Will Raq You shit.
All right. Let's just start like how it sort of came about. So before,
Crazily.
That's how most things
It was
do.
random.
It was very random. We were having a conversation. Oh, this is before we ever even got our own studio, and we were having a conversation about Haflas and topics and themes, I guess, not topics. And we said, we've been talking about doing a heavy metal Hafla. And Margaret Pribble was there, and she was like, oh, that's awesome, blah, blah, blah. And so we just sort of left it at that. And some time passed. And then we ended up, me and Lori and little Steph and Margaret. And did Summer come along to that?
I don't remember if
Sword
Summer
workshop?
came along. I think Vicky did too.
I think Vicky did too.
We were at that.
It was Amar
Amar Alamir were you in Raleigh or?
Yeah.
Raleigh?
Yeah. At least near Raleigh.
Yeah, doing a sword workshop, and Margaret said to us, she said, "Hey, you remember us talking about doing that heavy metal themed Hafla?" She was like, "Let's pick a date." And we were like, "Well, fine. You go home, talk to Summer, and tell us what day you guys have available, and we were teaching at Lotus then,
Mm-hmm.
Lotus Living Arts Studio in Concord.
Check it out.
Well, they're getting ready to move now. They got a new home, but still downtown Concord. But we're like, well, let us know, and we'll see if we can book the studio. And
we did.
We did.
That's how it started. Was we were just gonna have another little Hafla in our little tiny studio there at Lotus, and we said, "Oh, I wonder if we knew Margaret and Summer were into it." We were like, "Oh, I wonder who else we could get to come and dance, and will anybody even be interested?" So we posted on Facebook, and in less than 24 hours, we knew we could not have it at the studio because we got a huge response, which was great and unexpected. So it went from being a simple little in-studio thing to
shit.
it seemed really huge the first year, but it wasn't. It was huge for us, but it wasn't that huge just because the venue was small and tiny.
It was the sudden realization within 24 hours that we've probably got in over our heads like we always do. And all of a sudden we have a date and we have people wanting to perform, and we have no fucking where to do this at.
Yeah.
What the fuck are we going to do?
So if you don't live in this area and you happen to be listening to this podcast, we live in a suburb of Charlotte, and that might sound awesome. There should be plenty of places in Charlotte, and there kind of are, but they're super expensive, and we are not super rich. So
Contrary to popular belief.
Yeah, contrary to popular belief, we're not super rich. And there's really no place in Concord, or there wasn't, there kind of isn't now. So we had a hard time finding a place, and luckily, Vicky, who will talk to anybody and negotiate anything, knew the guy who was revamping what was the old Cabarrus Creamery, the most delicious ice cream ever. And he had an empty area. I don't even want to call it a room at that time. And so we went there, we looked at it, and we said, okay, sweet. And so we paid him just a little bit of money, but it seemed huge at that time. And the room was, I don't know, tiny. They really they have a little grocery store in there now, like not yeah, it is. It's like all organic, local stuff and everything, and so it's tiny. It's not like
we knew that it was going to be used for something else.
Yeah,
it was just.
It was going to be used for like weddings.
Yeah, so it was just going to be, we're going to use it for this. They're revamping it, and we're going to use it before anything moves in.
We were like, okay, this will be great. This is awesome, and we were really happy to have it, and we still are. We're still really glad that we did. But there was just one little, like, we ran into our very first, holy shit, this is a problem, at the show. We ran into a lot of holy shit, this is problems. But the first one was that the floor was supposed to be finished concrete, which is not ideal to dance on, but it's better than carpet. And the 2 days before, a day before?
I want to say it was the day before. Day before. Did you go with us?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was all of us. Me, you, Vicky, and Steffi went to, like, peep through the windows.
Yeah.
And there was fucking carpet.
Yes.
And we nearly shit our pants.
Yes.
What the fuck are we gonna do now?
Yeah. So luckily, our former troop leader, Nancy Gaines, had a piece of, a really nice piece of vinyl flooring.
Rolled.
Yeah.
Vinyl, like a roll of vinyl flooring.
And so we desperately called her, and she was like, of course. So she brought that down. We just had to engineer the craziest ways of setting things up ever, and we didn't have any money, so we had to make it ourselves and come up with a backdrop and with lighting and something to put on the stage. And about the only thing we had was like sound equipment.
Yeah.
And that's and that was the extent of it.
We had the sound equipment. We had all the guys' equipments. My husband had his cabs that say "Hello, kill yourself," and we were like, "We'll set that up." And we set up a drum set. Whose drum set was that? It was your drum set? Yeah.
Yeah.
It was Jake's drum set, and we had a little disco light.
Yes, we did.
that we set over on a cab, and I'm not sure it really did a whole lot, but
we felt good though.
Yeah, I look back in pictures and video, and I go, "What were we doing with that little disco light?" And then we were like, "Well," and you guys made the backdrop out of
sheets and
PVC pipe and sheets. And the lights. I feel like Jake needs to tell the story of the lights.
So we bought a sound organ, which was supposed to take input from the music and change the lights according to it. And Robbo wired it up like the week before, and when we went to test it, it didn't work at all. So I went ahead and bought a little box and put 3 switches in it. And we had lights that were just regular lights that you'd put on your ceiling, track lights in your house.
Yep.
We spray painted them black.
Yep,
we put
we did.
regular light bulbs in them, put gels on top of them so they were different colors. And we had 2 of them turned on and 1 of them turned off on the little box, and they were all push buttons. And Robbo sat at the counter while he was playing the music. He sat at the table and pushed the buttons to turn on and off the different colored lights as we were doing that.
So everybody that danced at that very first We Will Rock You, if you enjoyed the lights changing to the sound of your music, my husband, you can thank him for that, because his hand was done by the end of the night. Yeah. The funny thing is, Jake and Rob did not tell us that their plan did not work. We did not find out that they had to manually do that until after the show was over. And I was like, are you kidding me?
Yeah,
Are you kidding me right now?
we'd have freaked out way more.
Yeah, we would have. And they knew we would have. And so they didn't even let us in on that. I was just sitting here thinking, what did we use for lights? And then he started talking about spray painting the track lights, and I was like, yep,
that's where it came
what
from.
We fucking did. Yep.
And the place was really, really small, and we thought, oh, we're not going to get any audience from this. We'll get a few people, blah, blah, blah. And we were really wrong. Like, cars kept rolling up and people kept getting out, and we oversold it. I'm sure we broke fire codes because there were people standing in there. The performers could not watch it from inside.
Because there was no room.
There was no room. But there are these giant windows that faced out onto a courtyard. So the performers had to go out and watch through the window, which really was like, it's one of my favorite sort of memories in my mind is seeing all these performers like squishing into each other and looking through the windows,
like one head on top of, one head on top of another head.
jockeying for position to watch. It was one of my favorite memories, and there were just so many people in it that at that time we were so starstruck by. And I mean, not that we aren't still, but when you've just seen each other a lot and you kind of get to know each other, you're less starstruck and you're more like, oh, these are my friends now.
Yeah.
But it was it was just huge for us, and we loved it. And we weren't the only ones that really loved it and still kind of hold fond memories. We ask on Facebook for people to put in the comments about their favorite We Will Raq You memories. We had a couple from the first one, because there weren't a whole lot of people there because we had such a small venue.
It was maybe like, what, 50, 75, 80? Did we have 100 people in that place?
I think if we counted performers, we might have had 100 people.
But for that tiny little place, I want to say we had about 50 some chairs.
I think we did have 50 chairs.
50 chairs. 60 chairs?
60 chairs?
Okay. We
Okay.
had about 6, yeah.
We numbered the chairs before we
Yeah.
Oh, yeah, we did.
Yeah.
We numbered the chairs.
And then we had, like Wendy said, we were selling, like we'd sold all of those tickets already. And so we were like, well, if they want to come in the door, we'll sell them a $5 in the door, but you got to stand.
Yeah.
And it was standing room only.
Yeah.
And
It was pretty amazing.
it was amazing. And it, a couple of people commented on also one of the things that everybody that danced in that show will never forget. Yeah.
Naima's? Okay,
Yeah,
so
yeah, because that,
Yeah.
and my mother sat
Yeah.
right beside of him.
So this is a quote from Naima Sultana about that first We Will Raq You. She said, "We will rock you number one. The elderly gentleman in the front row who clearly enjoyed it, but we were afraid was going to have a heart attack." And it's the truth. I don't know who that guy was.
Nope.
He sort of came in and chose a seat right up front and then disappeared into the night when the show was over. But he had the biggest grin on his face the whole time. And wasn't he the one that was yelling, woo, every time?
Yeah, so we had an aisle going between the seats, and he was sitting like on the end of the very first row to the right, and my mother had found herself sitting beside of him somehow. And we had no idea where he came from, how he found out about it, because he wasn't what you would call your typical belly dance show
Not at
attendee.
all.
And these dancers would come out and he'd just go, woo, woohoo. And we were like, well, he's having fun. Hell yeah. That's all right. Yeah.
It's what we hoped for, but he was, he was not the typical We Will Raq
I
You
wish
fan.
we knew who he was.
I know.
I really do.
I'd have had him back every year.
Yes. And I would set him right up there in the front so he could go, woohoo, every time.
So if for some crazy reason, our favorite elderly man, if you were at the very first We Will Raq You and you show up at number 7 this year, we will get you a seat.
Yes.
Because
Yes.
we would love to hear woohoo every time.
Wendy,
was
what
great.
was your favorite memory of the first one?
All the performers squishing in to watch was really good. And I think it was just maybe there were so many just performances by people that we were just blown away by. We couldn't believe that we conned them into getting in our
Yep.
show. So that was really good. We'd watched people for years on stage, and just to have them in something that we were doing was great. I loved it. It's one of my favorite. It's probably going to stay my favorite show ever because it was just such a huge leap for us, and it worked out, and everything went fine, and
Yeah.
people came back the next year, so there's that.
Yeah.
So that leads us to year number 2, because since we already knew that, and I don't think we didn't set out to make this like a series, like a yearly event.
No,
it was going to
no,
be a
we didn't.
one-time thing.
And but clearly after that first event, we immediately had people requesting, "You guys gonna do We Will Raq You again?" We're like, "Well, if people are gonna come back and dance at it, okay."
Yeah, and if we can find a place.
If we can find a place, because at that point, we knew going in that that venue there, that little room, was a one-time off kind of deal. So Wendy and I immediately knew we're going to have to go look at some venues.
So we did, and we got really lucky, and we were so fortunate. We got to use the old courthouse theater here in Concord, which is a really cool former church turned theater. And I'm not sure how long they've been a theater, but a good long time. And we were so excited because we had a stage in a theater. Yeah, a good
Big
stage in a theater, and they had lights, and we really didn't have to bring in anything except our little rock sign, RAQ sign that Jake had made.
Jake still has, I'm sure. Yep.
And we used Christmas lights. And what was it made from? What's the
Yeah.
So it's made from
It's like house insulation board. Yeah.
that has the silver on the back. So he cut out the letters RAQ and then poked holes and put Christmas lights through it. And it was cool in the little tiny venue we were in. But then
Right.
when we moved to the theater,
We hung it that.
hung it on the back.
The
Yeah,
second
we hung
year
it on the
we hung
backdrop.
it.
We hung it on the backdrop the first year.
yeah,
It was
Yes.
right behind
Well, the
the-
second
Right.
year, the guys at the theater helped us hang it up.
yeah,
And then after that second year, we were like,
nah,
nah,
it was,
nah, that ain't working.
Not only did they hang it up, they hung it up and they hooked it up to switches that they could turn on.
Yeah.
And off.
Oh right,
They
yeah,
had it like flashing and stuff.
yeah. It flashed and
And
did
we're
fancy
always just
things.
Like, you remember what I did to that?
Yeah,
rock
and
sign?"
we're getting ahead of ourselves because we're going to talk about John and Jim. 'Cause
Yes.
John and Jim totally helped us, like, change the outcome of We Will Rock You.
That yeah,
And
completely.
and they still continue to do that.
Yes.
And, but so we'll get back to
Yeah.
We Will Rock You too.
So We Will Rock You too. We didn't obviously use the silver each sign
No.
after the second year because it looked so tiny.
So what was our theme the second year? I think it was just
We didn't have one.
we did.
It was hey,
it
we
was
have
the-
a new
It
venue.
was the same. It was the same. It was like heavy metal rock music.
Yeah.
I think
Bigger
it-
and better.
Yeah,
bigger and better
better.
because we're in this super awesome theater, and we were just so excited.
Oh my
the
God.
backstage area, there were dressing rooms,
Yes.
and we were like, we get to assign people to dressing rooms, and there are like vanities, and holy shit, look at this, and look, we can, what? Oh my! And then another thing that quickly dawned on us once we found the theater was, oh my God, we need some manpower.
Yes. Oh God. Yes.
Oh my gosh. Because that first year, so we rented the theater and we were super excited about it. And that first year, I don't remember, me and Wendy, Steffi, and we had Jake and Rob, and
We had two Steffies.
we
that
had
year.
two Steffies
Yeah.
then. So Steffi and Donnie too. So we had a little bit of manpower, but it was like, all right. We had Jim and John, who John was the sound guy and Jim was the lighting guy. They worked for the theater at the time.
And Ivy and
Right.
UC, I think, came down
Ivy
and
and
helped.
we had
I think
because
they
we
stayed
had
here.
we had met Ivy at Tribo years before, and then she was so excited about We Will Rock You. She came performed at the first one, her and UC both, and so we were like, all right, you guys, you're following us there, so you got to help us.
You're in the fam.
You're in the fam now. So yeah, so they came, we had them, but it quickly became an issue of, oh my gosh, we're going to have to wear running shoes because holy shit, this theater is huge. And, we're going to need people to stage manage. We're going to need people to organize people in the dressing room. We're going to need somebody to run back and forth and talk to John and Jim.
We got students. Thank you, early students, for coming and helping. We offered free tickets to come and help, and it worked. And people came and helped us out with all of the things, and which was great because that just made more people who were excited about the show. So we can't really go any farther without talking about John and Jim. So John Ram and Jim Ablard were volunteers, which everybody at the Old Courthouse Theater is. They were volunteers there, and like Lori said, they were the sound guy and the lighting guy. And after that first year at the theater, they took this thing on as a project of their own. And Jim works for a lighting company. They do all kinds of events, and so he would borrow lighting, and they didn't tell us they were going to do this.
This was year 3.
It was year 3, yeah.
Yeah.
So he would borrow lighting, and John wanted his track list right away, and they just sort of took it on as a project, which was really great, and it really transformed the show. We decided, well, shit, we've got to do something big, and so we had a live band.
We did. Yes, we did. That was the first year we had a live band. So we put equipment on the stage once again as backdrop, but it actually got used this time.
Jake and Robbo and Dustin and Jim Sy, came, like American Murder, and they played for our last song. We had never really danced to live music in that way.
A live rock band.
A live rock band.
Yeah.
And they had never really, they'd never really done this in a theater like that before, and not with dancers and things. So I can't say that it was wildly successful if we look back on it now. But at the time, people went nuts, and so did we. And we loved it, but we haven't done it again. It's just really hard. But it was cool, and it was fun, and it was I'm glad that we did it. But it would be hard to do again without really re-engineering. So year 2, we were excited about backstage. We were excited to have everybody. We just blah blah blah.
Somehow, we somehow managed to get one of the best dancers, in my opinion, in Charlotte, Yasmin, to perform in the show. And Wendy and I were just ecstatic.
Oh my God.
We were over the moon. We could not believe that Yasmin was going to dance at our show. And so we're watching her perform, and I think you had talked to her earlier. Somebody had talked to her earlier, and we're like, hey, how'd you choose that song? She's like, I'm not a big, rock fan. And so I asked my sister Julie, hey, what should I dance to? And she was like, well, dance to one of these. And she's like, so I listened to that one and I picked it. And we're like, shit, the day before she's picking this song, but I know she's going to kill it, right? And we were just like in awe of her ability to do that.
I still am.
I still am. It was one of those moments that I'll never forget. And still to this day, that's probably my favorite We Will Raq You performance to date.
Yeah,
it was just amazing.
It was. So that gets us to year 3, and that was Destiny's first time. Oh,
we decided to have a theme for that show.
We did.
It was the first time we kind of moved away from the all rock and heavy metal, and we were like, you know what, let's do an 80s show, and let's just open it up and have, just any kind of 80s.
So tell us about your first We Will Raq You.
Tell us about
Destiny.
Your thoughts on that. What your favorite memory was.
Favorite memory. I would have to say, honestly, the whole show in general is just a good memory for me, because that was the first time that I saw a large production of a belly dance show. It was otherwise it was like, Renaissance and things like that. So there was flashing lights and huge crowd and amazing costumes. So just even being backstage with all of these performers, I had no idea who they were at the time. I was scared.
You were but a wee baby belly dancer.
I was so scared. And I remember I sat beside Sandy and Earl at the first one, because I had no one to sit with. Josh did not come with me. so he woke up. So he did not come with me. I remember sitting I walked through the audience, and I saw Sandy, who I was in classes with at the time. I was like, Sandy, can I sit with you? I'm lonely. She's like, yeah, sit down. And I did not know about making noise, really. I learned that night about making noise, besides just clapping. So the one performance that really sticks out for me that night, though, was probably Masadi's. It was just very, very snaky and slow. It was all red and black.
The red.
Yeah.
It sticks in my mind.
Oh yeah, 80s theme all the way.
So my favorite part of the third show was walking into that venue. So, like we said before, John and Jim quickly became a really big part of We Will Raq You. On their own accord. Yeah. They just went, you know what? I really like this, and we're going to help you guys. And we were like, Okay, let's do it. So we had showed up at the venue. Saw Destiny in the parking lot. Hey, girl, come on, let's go in. Let's get started. Walk into the theater. And I don't know if it was just me, but I nearly shit my pants.
Yes.
I nearly threw up and shit my pants at the same time.
Yep.
Because all of my rock star dreams were about to come and producer dreams were about to come true. And I all of a sudden felt really, really like, what the fuck are we doing? I don't know what to do.
Yeah. It was a complete game changer. We walked in and there was like concert level lights on the stage. And what?
You need to mention Jordan too.
Yes, and Jordan.
Yes,
and that was the first time we met Jordan.
That was the first time.
Yeah, yes. And so we had known Jim and John, and then Jordan Bradley, who did work with Jim, was there. And he was up, they were still building it. Mm-hmm. And I actually had to tell Jordan that they had to stop once they got to the testing part, because we were like, we got to open the doors now. I can't imagine if they'd had unlimited time what they would have done with everything.
Unreal.
It was unbelievable.
It was unreal.
And everybody was so excited. Every performer they were the same way. They were about to poop their pants. It was so exciting to have that. And it made the show just like completely different. Those guys have every bit as much of a claim to the success and look of the show as we do. We might have had the initial concept, but they took it and blew it up huge. And we're so glad to have met them and to have had them for so long. And it was a year where, we tried things and some stuff worked great, some stuff didn't. We found out that sometimes when you have a themed show, everybody interprets it in ways that you don't always foresee, for good or bad. And theme shows are hard because of just that thing. You either feel like you have to exactly spell out this, and then people kind of lose control of their own creativity, or you have to be able to just let it go and say, okay, if this is the way you interpret this kind of music, cool, awesome. So thank you, Jim, John, and Jordan for that. It was awesome. And then another thing that really, we're going to talk about the memories that people posted on Facebook in a second, because that leads into another thing that we've tried to stick with somewhat, is the end of the show. And this was the first time that we thought about having some kind of a big end of the show. And we can't take credit for that, really. It was Jenny Lawrence who came up with, she and Sophia did Don't Stop Believing by Journey, which was so epic. And they wore mustaches, which just made me feel so warm and fuzzy about mustaches.
This was way before mustaches were.
Yeah, it was way before hipsters got turned on to mustaches. I think they started that trend. But so they did the Journey song, Don't Stop Believing, and Jenny choreographed a little ending choreo and did a video for everybody to learn, so that all the dancers could come back out and finish it together, which was so great. And so if you look on our website or you see most of our promotion, it's a picture from that, because that's just that's the best thing. So we'll start with Jenny's memory, and it's pretty short. So Jenny said her memory was, the big Journey finale made my heart soar, and not sore like it hurts, but soar in the way that everything is awesome. And that was one of my favorite memories. And actually, immediately following that is another one of my favorite memories.
For better or worse, it's probably one of the ones that sticks in my head the most. Yes. And I make an example out of it to my students.
Yes.
And because it happens. Yes. And thankfully, it didn't happen. It happened after the show.
Yes, at the end of the show.
Yes, go ahead.
At the end of the show, we were excited, and Ivy had arranged to give us this huge bouquet of flowers, and we were saying goodbye to little Steph because she was
Also,
getting married and moving away.
Wendy and I had recently started doing burlesque and decided it was a good idea after we performed, because this was the first year we performed at the beginning of the show.
That's right. We got smart.
Right. Yeah, we got smart and figured out that if we perform in the beginning of the show, then we don't have to worry about performing through the rest of the show, and we can focus on working. So after we performed, we went upstairs. We had our hair in.
Yeah.
We put on our walking around dresses
did.
and our heels, and we were like, "Yeah, we're the show producers now. We're gonna fancy this up."
So fancy over here.
Oh my God.
So we're being fancy, and we got our flowers, and we're very fucking fancy. And we go to get off the stage, not by the wings like we normally do, but down the front steps that lead to the theater. And I stepped on the first step, and I turned to Lori and said, "Don't let me fall off these stairs." And what did I do? I fell off the fucking stairs. I can't even explain how it happened, but I did. And I fell, and Lori, bless her little heart, her little teeny tiny heart, she tried to save me from falling. And that, if you know the two of us or watch this video, you will see how that's just not, the physics of this is just not going to work. But she tried.
Also, if you know me, you know that even if I can't save you, I'm going to try
She's
it.
going to try it.
And she'll punch you.
And
Yes.
She will punch you on the way down.
Yes.
I will do anything possible to try and save you from falling, regardless of life or limb.
Even if it means punching you to knock you out so you won't know.
Yeah.
So down we go off the stage, and Lori landed on top of me and remembered as we were falling down to point her toes as we
Yes.
landed. I did not. And the crazy thing was we fell off the stage, and there's this group of people standing around,
Yeah.
and we're laying on the floor like, oh my God, what just happened? And
With
they
the bouquet of flowers
with a bouquet
in
of
between
flowers
us.
between the two of us, which did not break our fall at all. And we just are looking up at these people. They look at
They're
us,
just looking at us.
and then they just turn away and go back to the conversation, and we're like, they didn't
like
even
that.
laugh.
No, there was no
I
laughing
did.
or any.
You laughed?
Yeah, because I was standing in the back, not with the group of people, because, lonely. And I saw it. It was slow motion, and I was like, that sucks.
Where'd those bitches go?
Well, they'll help them.
Yeah, they'll help 'em up. I got shit to do. So that was our own big. So I'm gonna read these memories from Misty. So we're not even done talking about the big journey finale because Misty also loved it, and she said we'd all been quiet backstage the whole show, but when Don't Stop Believin' started to play, Brittany and I ended up singing at the tops of our lungs until time for us to walk in, and I'm not even sorry. You should not ever be sorry for singing backstage. That's awesome. That's what we hope for. And Lanita, who performed for the very first time, she was one of my students. She wrote, and I'm not trying to make myself sound awesome. She honestly wrote this. You can see it on Facebook. She wrote Wendy's introduction to me, it meant more than she'll ever know, and then she hashtagged We Will Raq You 80s. Lanita danced in honor of her husband who had been killed in Iraq several years before. And it was the song that she danced to meant a lot to them, and it was hard to introduce her. It was a very emotional show that year.
That was an emotional show.
Yeah.
Margaret also danced her that year to
Yeah.
Purple Rain, and her father had recently passed.
Yeah,
She dedicated that performance to her.
It was the year everybody
her,
cried.
Yeah, everybody cried that fucking year.
Except
Yeah.
Destiny. Some people laughed, some cried. And then Pam Holt, who is now one of our students, we're happy to have her, said that she's so happy to have been chosen 2 times for duets. And their first year was was year 3, the 80s year, and they did a dance to some music from Escape from New York. And if you look at that big picture I was talking about, you can see Kathy still in her camo pants, and that's why, and an eye patch, because she played Snake Plissken. So it was good. The 80s year was fun, and we had a good time with it. It was the first time we tried a theme. It worked out pretty good.
Yeah.
I like that one.
Yeah, that was a good show.
So number 4, We Will Raq You 4.
We went back to no theme.
We went back to no theme, and we had a lot of good performances that year. We had a lot of brand new people, which was awesome. We had Sammy Tate. We had people from around here, which is great. We love it. And we love it when we get people who aren't from so much around here. That's always fun because you can see these people on Facebook. You might know each other on Facebook. You might get to watch the videos, but you may never get to see that person dance in person. And we got lucky and had several people. Sammy Tay danced that year, and Liz Tron, who now lives in like Colorado, I think.
Denver.
And Kate O'Donnell, and I can't remember where Kate moved to, just kind of relatively recently. She actually opened the show and used a sword and left the stage and went out into the audience, which made them go absolutely nuts, which was great. We just had a ton of really good.
It was a phenomenal year. Yeah.
Go ahead. You have to say
You
more
were-
than
you
four
were-
words.
That was also my first year performing, so I was on the balcony. I remember like my eyes were watering from all of the awesomeness, and I was like, I'm gonna have to perform soon. I can't mess up my makeup, but it was badass performer after badass performer after badass performer, and performances and groups, and it was a phenomenal year.
I like how you will not admit to crying, but your eyes would water.
Watering from the awesomeness.
Oh,
Not crying.
Not crying from
No,
awesomeness.
like,
Not
you know,
crying.
the awesome lights, the awesome bling on the costumes, the awesome dancing. It was just like, oh, God, my eyes.
Lies.
This bitch.
Year. Legan, and I think this was at year 4. If it's not Legan, I'm sorry. She wrote, I did my first ever solo at We Will Raq You 4 years or so ago. I'll never forget all the love, support, and badassery that surrounded me. Thanks for keeping the energy alive. You are welcome. And really, we don't keep it alive. It's all the performers who come and do this. Because if it was just us, let's face it, we can't put together a 2-hour show with just us.
There's just something undeniably special about the energy backstage at We Will Raq You. And that really is kind of produced in itself by all the dancers and their love of the music and their excitedness to be in the show and to have the opportunity to, dance to these songs that they've always wanted to dance to, and maybe they just haven't had the right show to do it at. And so you guys are really the ones, the performers and the audience are really the ones that make that show the high energy show that it is.
Yeah, the audience, that's one thing we do need to talk about. We cannot not talk about the audience that we get. Because there's so much that depends on what kind of audience you get. And that's true in any kind of performance
art.
But especially here where we live and with belly dance, it's not the most familiar thing to people. So we've been really pleasantly surprised by how many great audiences that we've had over the years. And they've made it so much easier for us to really give a good performance because the energy and just the great support and the great feeling that we get from them. And we have people that just come back over and over and over. And I think we've had some people that have been there every year since year 1.
Yeah, there's a couple.
Yeah.
A couple, yeah.
And we definitely, when we were at the theater, we had a lot of people that came back every year at the theater. And so Iona Wilson, who dances with Spirit of the Lotus and teaches in Charlotte in the Ballantyne area, says, I've been blessed enough to perform in nearly all of them, meaning We Will Raq You. My favorite to date is Love Roller Coaster. Oh, that's a great one. And I've even had the opportunity to have Amani Lotus perform for 3 years. That's her student troupe. This is one of the most anticipated belly dance shows in the city, and I can't wait to do it again. And we can't wait to have Iona in the show
we
again.
love Iona. We love Monty Lotus and
Spirit of the Lotus. All them girls.
And I will never forget their performance at year 1
Yeah, their performance. They did Let the Bodies Hit the Floor
at that show.
at the first show.
Oh, at the first show,
Very
yeah.
first
And I
show.
remember they all came out and they were wearing jeans, and I was like, these motherfuckers are wearing jeans and they're gonna show it up.
It was
And they did. Of course they did.
so good.
Yeah.
So good. We loved it. So yeah, year 4. Year 4 was kind of the year that we kind of sort of felt like we had it
We
together.
had it together, and we were like cruising.
Yeah, and
It was
then
a cruising year.
and then came year 5.
Oh my gosh. Year 5. So many memories for year 5.
So this is
Oh,
yes.
I was trying to remember why we decided to go with that theme. It was because it was on Valentine's Day.
It was on, with the theater, they just kind of gave us dates, and because they are working theater, and so they didn't have many open dates, and so we wouldn't get too much of a choice. We'd be lucky if we got a couple of dates, and that year, really, the only one available was Valentine's Day, and so we were like, well, we'll roll with it. We'll just change the theme, and we'll make it fit, and so we used the theme "Love Hurts." Which was like all like sort of love songs, but like I love you or
Love, Lust, or Regret.
Yeah, love, lust, and regret. That's exactly
Yes.
it. Yes. Because year 4 went so great, we got all big on ourselves and decided we're going to do a giant production, which I'm going to let Destiny talk about because at that time she was not yet an instructor, right? You were still
Yeah, I was still a student.
You're still a student. So tell us about that performance and
Well, I'll
all that.
say this. I'm the one that had the bright idea to do this song that the students ended up. Well, we all performed to, but the students,
Yep.
the students performed to like 80% of the song.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
You're welcome for the
But,
experience,
I was
kids.
at work. I don't remember. Were you working at the office? Okay.
Yeah.
So Destiny
Because
and I
you came running to my desk and you're like, dude.
yeah. So Destiny and I worked together, and I was listening to Pandora, and we knew that this was going to be our theme, and all of a sudden, fucking November Rain come on Pandora, and I was just like, oh. And so like I ran into Destiny and immediately got on the computer and was like, holy shit, Wendy, we need to do this.
And
Of
I was like,
course-
yes!
Of course, November Rain is like 9 minutes long.
Yeah, for reals.
So we decided to do that, and I'm going to let Destiny take it over because, like I said, she at that time was dancing in the troupe, and you were kind of like the troupe facilitator, the student
Yes.
facilitator
Yes.
for everybody.
Yes.
So
Liaison.
our student liaison between us and our students. So
Yeah,
let her talk about
yeah,
that.
come on, Destiny.
Okay, so I remember we set it up in three parts. We had a ATS section, a choreography section, and then the instructor section. Oh man, we wrote like as a whole group between the students and the instructors, that whole thing. So we picked people to be within the ATS section, and I remember we had this big entrance where we all came in from different parts, from the front, both sides, and the back, to be all dramatic and sad. And the staging was really phenomenal too, because the ATS was all the way on stage, right?
Yeah, who staged that? I
What?
wonder?
I don't know, Wendy. Who does that? So ATS was all the way on stage, right? And then 3 minutes maybe go.
Like three or four.
Yeah. We did circle, turn the wheel, whatever you want to call your ATS terminology. And what we did was shift from ATS into choreo. So we got the ATS people off of the stage and got the choreo people onto the stage, which I was both.
That's
we
what
had
happens.
a student.
That's what happens when you're like a really good student.
Yeah. We
have
had a
someone
student
drop
drop out. And we're like, well, who knows all the choreo?
This bitch.
This bitch right here, she will dance 7 minutes. So go over to the choreo section, which is all the way stage left. Has some really nice formations with that and different line changes. That was very dynamic. I remember Steffi B helped out and tweaked a lot of stuff in that, and she was hitting all kinds of guitar notes and drumming, and I was like, I don't hear that, Steffi, but okay, your ears hear everything within music. So we did that, and then we rushed off stage and left the instructors like the last minute and a half, 2 minutes. They come through the center, do their badassery, and then we take the stage behind them, and we're like their little backup dancers. Dancing behind them with our little calibrated spins.
Oh, you're the pips to our Gladys Knights.
So there's another story
A sad story.
that occurred while all this was going on.
Oh, yes.
So, Abazoos, Joe,
Yes.
and one of our students' husbands, Sean, who plays the drums with Abazoos, and I want to say Imelda, who is
Yeah,
another
she
one of
was
our
there.
students.
Yep.
They had played drums. They had played a little set to open the show, and Sean's hat had fallen off onto the stage.
Yep.
And we did not notice that his hat was laying on the stage until the students were doing their choreographed part. And me and Wendy were standing in the wings going, I remember looking at Morgan and going, there's a fucking hat behind her. Oh, my God. And so at the time, we're standing in the wing. We had planned our portion. We were going to come out the center. There's a center door that opens to the back of the stage, and we were like, we're going to be fancy, and we're going to come through the center because the first group of students came through the audience, the second group came in from the other side, and we're going to come through the center. So my husband Rob was standing in the wings with us, and we're like, Rob, there's a hat. What are we going to do? And he goes, well, this is what we're going to do. When the light, because we had planned for the lights to go black, and we were going to come out onto the stage, and then when the lights come back up, we would be on stage. He said, so when the lights go black, I'll run on stage, grab the hat, and you guys can get on stage. We're like, okay, cool. It did not happen that way.
No, it kind of went
I'll
wrong.
let you take that over.
So, well, Rob did grab the hat.
He did grab the hat, but I don't remember. It was because it was so dark,
Yes.
and he was wearing all black, and the stage was all black, and the curtains were all black, and that hat was black.
Yep. It was, so Rob sort of had to fumble a little bit for the hat, and we're coming out, and I'm like, oh my God, I'm going to run into Robbo. I'm going to run into
Well, we were afraid
him.
the lights were going to come up, and he was going to be on stage. too.
Yes. We were like, we're not going to make it out there. Robbo's still going to be on the stage when the lights come on. This is going to be a disaster. And so that didn't happen. Rob did get the hat and did make it off stage, and we did make it to where we were supposed to be. But I'm easily rattled. Yes. I'm very easily rattled, and especially like at a show like this. And so we had a whole veil part, and I had custom dyed our veils a blue color and blah, blah, blah.
We had to have them wrapped just right on us so we
Yes.
could get them off. And
Yes. And we did all that. And then what happened? Lori came out and it was fine. I came out and I was just so rattled. If you ever see the video, I just throw my veil down.
so fucking done.
I just sort of swing it around and drop it. And then just launched into the next part of it. So, of course, anything that goes wrong, that's the part that you focus on. But since we've had a few years since then, I love that performance. I love to watch that. I will never, ever be a part of choreographing a 9-minute song again. That was, we thought this will save us from having to do our own thing and a student thing. We'll have less.
Did. It did.
It did,
did.
but we thought it would be less work, and it
was
wasn't.
a lot of work. I feel like it was worth the work.
Yeah,
I'd
was.
still be a fool and do it again.
I would.
But
All right, y'all have fun.
yeah, I mean,
It was,
You know.
but it was a good time, and I really got verklempt watching the video because it was one of the first times that I could see some things that we had done like come to life with other people, and I was really happy with that and super proud of it.
whenever I hear that song, especially the part of the end where it goes,
Yes.
I can always see the students like scurrying off stage.
Yes. So that was year 4 adventure, or year 5, I mean, adventure. So we have to read a couple of quotes here, and it's pretty hilarious that the people that commented on it both had the same comment. So Cindy Arnold is the best. It's a 2-word memory, crazy bitch. And that
Period.
Yes, crazy bitch, period. And that was Haraya, who performed to Buck Cherry's Crazy Bitch. It was, oh my God, I can't even describe it. If you weren't there, you missed a really awesome performance. And then Amina Parker, who has been in Amani Lotus and has performed several times at our show, she said, I think it was 2 years ago, when a dancer performed to Crazy Bitch, and you guys immediately retired the song. Great performance, great song, because we all got an inner crazy bitch.
And I do think we walked on stage and went done.
Done.
Did.
That song.
Yep.
That song's done.
Yeah, that song is retired, so nobody can use it anymore. We make people wait several years in between shows to reuse music because some of these performances are so memorable, and we want people to still have that memory. We don't want to recycle. There's so much music out there. We don't want to recycle it. But there are songs that we retire that the performances were just so good or so memorable or so stunning for some reason that nobody's ever going to, we feel like nobody's ever going to improve on that.
Yeah.
And so we want to like save those memories. And that was one that we just knew right away. So that brought us to this last year, year 6.
And
So we had a custom shirt because we had a different design, and it was sort of like the Ramones logo, which was great.
And
It really was. We ripped it off.
And it was the first year that we also incorporated the name of the studio into the
Yes,
shirt as well.
that's true.
So it
Very
said,
true.
"We will rock you," and
And Queens of Denial. So,
So.
you know, we're still learning how to market ourselves. That was one step toward that.
Step 1.
Yes.
Put name on shirt.
Which, and so last year we had to MC. We
Oh my
did
God!
not have Dustin, which we have not talked about him at all. Yes.
And let me just tell you guys, if you have never been to We Will Rock You, and this is your first year coming to We Will Rock You, just gird up your loins, because Dustin and Beth together. Oh my God!
It's going to be awesome.
But
hang on, we're getting ahead of ourselves.
We're getting ahead of ourselves.
Getting ahead of
but
ourselves.
Okay.
We're
we
so
had-
excited.
So we had to MC last year.
Yes. Oh
you
my
guys.
God.
Now, so whenever we do like gigs and someone has to talk, I usually let Wendy do it because Wendy has a way with words. And she has a way of like just, getting the crowd kind of together and organized, and we're going to do this. And then
I'm bossy.
She's the boss.
I'm bossy.
And
With
then
a smile.
And then with a
Yes,
smile.
of
And then you
course.
give me the mic and I go,
MCing was a whole different thing, and all three of us took turns coming out, and we tried to keep it, short. It's just like kind of stick to introducing the next act or thanking the last one or whatever. But there's no way, like we kind of had to fill in because there's a little bit of, a dancer's got to get off stage and the others have to get ready, and so we had to sort of have some chatter, but it's really hard.
Oh, yeah.
And it's super intimidating in front of a whole big theater of people who have paid to be there. I can talk the shit out of somebody at a festival because they're paying for the whole damn thing. But it was super intimidating, and I hated it. I really did. But we got through it. And I told a Kenny Loggins story. So here's a story, just in short. Vicky, who used to dance with us, her husband Wayne was Kenny Loggins' road manager, and so Vicky could get tickets to a lot of things, and especially Kenny's shows. And these guys were like, "Oh my God, Kenny Loggins!"
Give me some of that
I
K-Log.
knew when she said he's coming, because he doesn't come to Charlotte a whole lot.
That's true.
So like he was coming to Charlotte, and she was like, "Y'all want to see Kenny?" I was like, "I abso-fucking-lutely want to see Kenny Loggins." And Destiny too was like,
Yes.
"Fuck
Yes.
yeah!" And
They-
Wendy's over here like, "Really?"
I'm like, no. But the rest of these guys were excited. So we go, and I have to say, I was wrong. Kenny Loggins really does put on a good show. We
"He
had a good
fucking
time.
own that shit."
And there was Guitar Jesus,
Yes.
who was gorgeous.
Yes.
And so after the show, we got really lucky. We got to meet Kenny Loggins.
We were special people, as
Yeah.
the box office lady told us.
So special. So we were excited about that. That's cool. How many times do you meet literally a
Danger zone. You meet the danger zone.
And Winnie the Pooh.
yeah, yes. you meet a music legend. So it's cool. And so we go to take our turn to have a picture taken with Kenny Loggins, me and Jake. And I have a tattoo across my chest. I have other tattoos, but this one, like even the dress I was wearing, had short sleeves so you could see the ones on my arms. And I had this chest piece that you could see. And so Kenny Loggins says, "Oh, those are some really interesting tattoos." And then he says, "Did you do them yourself?" And I said, "What?" "No, Kenny Loggins, no." So I did manage to tell that story. And I got a laugh because it's just so weird. It was memorable for a bunch of reasons. One of them, I think, is also in our favorite memories, Sarah Brown, who's one of our students, We Will Rock You 6, singing Dream On in the dressing room with all the other performers when we were in there. It was such a magical moment for me, especially with that being my first performance. And that was really cool.
We have video. There's video.
There's video of it, and we didn't plan it or anything at all. We were just back there, and we were getting ready, and we were doing whatever. A bunch of us, because we had the biggest dressing room, which was a rehearsal hall. And just all of a sudden, we all kind of realized that we were all singing it. And it was cool.
It just happened to start playing Dream On, and people started singing. I remember Charles started singing. Naima's husband started singing, and then somebody else started singing, and then before we knew it, the whole backstage was singing, and then somebody had their camera out, and they were recording it, and it was a magical moment.
It was magic.
It was magic.
It was. And Lori Barrier, another of our students, said her most memorable We Will Rock You moment. She says, We Will Rock You 6, because after being in the audience after 2 years, saying one day I was going to be in the show, I was finally in the show. And so we've had a lot of firsts in the shows. Like you said earlier, we've had a lot of people perform solos for the first time, or dance to non-traditional music for the first time, or wear non-traditional costumes for the first time. Misty Massey said her favorite memory from that year was dancing with her partners, Jenny and Zore Sultani, in last year's show. When we turned on our hand lights, which makes no sense to people out there, but they were superheroes. When we turned on our hand lights and the audience reacted, that sound never gets old. And I was even like, oh my God, I got so excited. They had a really cool act. So, and Sandy Morris, who's another one of our students, said that she had a really good memory last year because she got to perform for the first time last year, and she's attended the last 4.
To know that, like, the show becomes like a goal for people to make it into that show. And for a lot of people, that show is such a huge spotlight on their dance journey that it's very humbling.
Yeah.
To know that we were part of that.
Yeah. And that, like, people have really good memories because of what the three of us...
Because of something that we were sitting in a car and went, we should do that.
Yeah.
You know?
From Margaret Pribble, the Prib. And this is just sort of an overall general We Will Rock You quote. She said, holy shitballs, Batman. I loved every second of every year. I've only missed one, but We Will Rock You 1 was pretty damn cool. It was so small, which is what she said. And We Will Rock You 2, when we danced to Hypnotize, that was my favorite moment. And she said, Dustin's emceeing is always great. Miss that guy. Because he wasn't there last year. And I've had so many people ask if he's going to be there this year. And so, yes, he will be. But we will also have a co-MC, our longtime friend and supporter, and after-show hostess, Beth McLaughlin, who is funny as hell, will be co-MCing with Dustin.
The price of the ticket alone is going to be worth the commentary.
Yes.
Between those two.
Not to mention
all the dancing.
Awesome ass dancing. So we have a lot of new and different things this year because we had to move venues. We were lucky we got this. The venue is called the Laureate Center, and it's actually in the Kannapolis City Hall. The downside of that is we have to bring in almost everything. We have to bring in a stage and lights and all that. Luckily not seat. So I think it's going to be good, and we'll have our problems and we'll have our things that don't work right, but that's all part of learning. You know, you can't stay in the same place forever. You know, you can't stay comfortable. You have to test yourself, and that's kind of what we're doing. This year the stage is in the round, so we'll have an audience on all 4 sides. So that's a big challenge. It's a challenge for the dancers and for us as dancers to be able to play to all 4 sides of an audience. So that'll be fun. We have Secondhand Gypsies, who are the musicians who play at the Renaissance Festival for the belly dancers there. They'll be in the show, so we'll have we've had a live band before, but this is a different kind of live band. So I'm excited. You know, we have to recruit people to come work the shows, and so that's like my parents take the tickets, and Robbo does anything and everything, and so does Josh Robbo is Lori's husband. Josh is Destiny's
Partner.
and Jake has even recruited people from his job to come run spotlights and to do other things. And we're so lucky to have, I can't even name all the people who've come and helped, and students and former students and everybody. I conned my son, Dustin, into emceeing. And I say conned him into it only because I'm his mom and he kind of isn't going to do what I want him to do all the time. But he loves it because he gets all this attention. And he thinks he's funny. He's also a musician. Like I said before, he played in the first time we had a live band. He played there, and he lives in Charleston with his wife and 2 kids, and he's a musician down there. So I'm happy that he's coming. He's going to be able to make it. And Beth has known him for, I don't know how many years, a long time. Beth has been a good friend of mine since I worked at the Independent Tribune. I used to work in newspapers, so from about 2000 on. And so the two of them are going to be hilarious together. But Dustin's quite saucy and uses some salty language, so prepare yourself.
Calls people out that are on cell phones.
Oh, yes. Yes. Don't be on your phone during the show, because he will see you. There are pictures of him sitting in the lap of people in the audience. Mm-hmm. And so it's fun. And so that's the other great thing is that the show's not just dance, it's a lot of other things. So I'm looking forward to that. That's going to be a good time. I'm glad that we have him back. And I'm really glad because that means I don't have to MC.
Yes.
So we still have tickets available. If you go to our website, queensofdenial.com, and that's QUEENS, and then of, and denial is DNILE.com. You'll find the link to buy tickets. They're very reasonably priced. We don't have any front row tickets left, but we have plenty of great general admission. This venue's not so big that there's no bad seat in the house at all. So they're all good. So get yourself a ticket and come see us. It's September 9th. And we have a great lineup. It's going to be a good time. And if you've never gone to a belly dance show, this should be the one that you go to. Because our theme this year is Live and Let Die, which means we're highlighting all the artists that we've lost, from like Beethoven and Mozart to Frank Sinatra to David Bowie and Michael Jackson and just everybody. Some new people who've never performed with us. We have people who've been with us from the beginning. So it's going to be a good time. So come take a look. And it's in Kannapolis. So Kannapolis people, China Grove people, Landis people, come on over and come see us. Like I said, September 9th, and it only happens once a year, so come and check us out. We've been through a hell of a year this year.
Yeah.
A lot has happened to us, and we're looking forward to the show immensely.
Thank you guys for listening in and joining us for our second podcast live from the Genie Bottle, and we hope to see you guys on September the 9th at We Will Raq You.
Yay.
And please remember that we do have all of the social medias. You can find us on Facebook at Queens of Denial Studio. You can find us on Instagram at Queens of Denial Studio. You can find us on Twitter at Queens of Denial Studio. If you want to shoot us an email, it's queensofdenial@yahoo.com. What am I missing?
You can just
I think that's it.
Google belly dance and Concord, North Carolina, and we'll come up because we're it in this area.